What's up, everyone? Thanks so much for joining. Skyler here, as always, with you. Happy Aloha Friday. Well, it's actually Thursday, but we're doing it today versus tomorrow because tomorrow's busy. So anyway, have a super special guest today, good friend of mine, and estate planning attorney here in San Diego, Mr. Kristopher Williams.
How's it going? Aloha.
Thank you. You're very dressed up for Aloha today.
I'm wearing one of the brighter shirts that I have. So
I like it. Yeah. How's the week going, man?
Week's going really well. Busy. Very thankful to be busy, doing what we do, and it's just I couldn't be in a happier place right now. Actually.
Awesome. Well, we'll get into kind of where you're at, which law firm you work with, and then expertise in a little bit. But let's just start with, how did you get into law? Like, what made you kind of think about getting into law in the first place?
Well, there's the real answer, and then there's the answer I like to give people. The real answer is that I went to law school for a girl, to make sure that I was attractive enough to her, as opposed to what I was doing, which was teaching. And but I also felt that the teaching profession wasn't a calling for me. So we have several lawyers in my family, and it was more of an obvious choice for me to go into the law. So that's what I tell people, and so that's the real answer. Is that my grandpa's an attorney, my sister's an attorney, and it was just a natural thing for me to want to do is go to law school. I did originally go to law school to change the education system. So I haven't done that yet, but I'm still young, relatively speaking. So that could still happen.
Nice. That's pretty funny. There's some synergies there because my dad's a financial planner, financial advisor. So it's like, it kind of almost fall into it sometimes if you're going in a direction that seems like it's interesting, then they have, family members that kind of do the similar thing and just jump into it. So do they also study, or do they also practice estate planning, or do they do other?
Yeah, my grandfather did do some estate planning at some point during his 40-year career, but mostly he was doing bankruptcy from the time that I was really aware of him being an attorney. My sister, when she graduated, she practiced law for a little bit, but then she moved to Seattle and is now working with one of the, I think it's a startup still, a tech company up there that is named after a large river. So
Nice. Good deal. And then how did you get into estate planning then?
I was practicing law in Riverside, doing litigation with personal injury claims, and I had a phone call came into the office for a lady who wanted to update her estate plan, and that's not what we did, but I knew somebody who could help her out. So I asked her if it would be okay if I called somebody to see if he could take the call, and she said, yeah, no problem. So I called Siddharth Chhokar I'd known since 2001, and he said, hey, what are you doing? And I told him what I was doing. He said, do you like it? And I said, well, not really. It wasn't really where I wanted to be. I had already told the firm in Riverside that I'm not going to grow roots here in Riverside, so don't plan on me being here long term. And he said, look, that's fine. Whenever you want to spread your wings, you just let us know. And so Siddharth said, hey, well, why don't you come down? We got a spot for a new attorney. Why don't you come down, meet the firm, and see if you like it? And 6 weeks after that initial phone call, I moved from Riverside to Solana Beach. So, and haven't looked back since. And that was October of 2014.
Slight upgrade.
I mean, the brown hills of Riverside to the blue water of Solana Beach was tough.
There's some good hikes and stuff out there though. There are some nice vistas and locations and stuff. So
I know where I came from, and not Riverside. Riverside was actually an upgrade from where I grew up. So I don't. It's a fine place. It wasn't for me.
Yeah.
To wind up there. But.
Right. I hear you. So tell us about your firm or the law firm that you're at. What obviously estate planning is the core services that you provide. What in there, is there anything else kind of in more detail that you can kind of dive into to help us understand a little bit more?
Sure. Our firm it consists of 3 attorneys, 3 paralegals, and basically we're estate planners, and we handle any estate there's no estate that's too small and there's no estate that's too big. We will also do uncontested probates, and after our clients pass away, or if they're non-clients, if they have a trust that needs to be administered, we'll do that as well. But we don't do any litigation. We don't want anybody on the other side saying mean things to us. We're too sensitive in that way. We want to end our meetings with hugs, and not have a judge tell us that we're wrong and that our argument is no good. So we're very much in the planning space, and we also do standalone asset protection trusts and estate tax reduction strategies that are very key for wealthy individuals and wealthy families, and that higher end wealth part.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I can attest to. Like I've introduced a few people to your firm as well, and they're extremely happy and very impressed with the level of just knowledge that you guys have. It's crazy. But then again, you guys do this every day and you know what you're doing. So
we've been doing it for a long time. I've been doing it since the end of 2014. Siddharth has been doing it for the better part of 15 years. And it's an amazing place that we've built here. I'm extremely fortunate and happy to be where I am.
For sure. And like I said, part of financial planning on my end too is working with people like you, because when you have kind of a team approach to someone's, personal life goals or, wealth goals, things like that. Obviously, like I don't know everything about, trusts and wills and how to design things. And then conversely, there's other things that people don't know about financial planning. And so it's just a very synergistic kind of approach to helping someone out. And
absolutely. I think of myself and our firm as a spoke on a hub that is the client's life. And so we know our spoke very, very well, but I also know enough of the other spokes to know where to, what other spoke to provide that recommendation for, whatever it is. So if we get a client from a non-financial advisor, let's say a real estate guy or gal sends us a client, and through our meeting and our relationship with the client, we understand that they don't have the proper financial guidance in their life. Well, then we're going to make a referral to a financial advisor that's going to help the client tremendously and help the financial advisor get a new client and help their business. So we know enough, but we stay in our lane, and clients ask us all the time, like, what should I do? And I say, well, you should talk to a financial advisor, because that is the question that you're asking.
Right.
You're not asking a legal question here. Or if it's another area of law where we stay in our lane, we're not going to advise on bankruptcy or contract law, business litigation, nothing like that. We have those quivers in our we have those arrows in our quiver to shoot them off to the right place.
Right. Well, tell me a little bit about like there's a number of different assets that someone can um, can identify. Obviously, here in San Diego, real estate is a pretty big asset, and I would imagine a lot of the business that comes through your doors has to deal with real estate, right?
Absolutely. We find that either if they're not running a particular business, our clients have portfolios that are pretty full of real estate.
Yeah. Because I deal with that all the time too, and I have a financial plan, and we go through the identification process and discovering like what exactly it is that they have. A lot of times, the folks who have a lot tend to have a lot in real estate. So and San Diego's, for me at least, I always think that San Diego is going to be a place in which people always want to live, or at least visit. And so for that reason, I think real estate in this area is probably going to continue to be a really substantial asset in those people's portfolios. So
yeah, it's never going to go down significantly. And if it does, in terms of the value of the real estate, but if it does, it's going to come right back. It's only going to go up because we don't have any volcanoes making new land. And just more people are going to want to come live here because I think the secret's out. San Diego's amazing. But for anybody that's watching this where you have never visited or you don't live here, it's actually a terrible place.
Right. Yeah. The weather's horrible, and I don't know, people are really mean. Not the best place to.
I mean, it rained the other day.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? It rained on a weekend.
Dreary. It's so dreary.
And then the next day it was sunny. It was.
Yeah, it's gross. It's super gross. So from like a high level, what I'd love to kind of give someone an idea, or our viewers and listeners an idea of, I guess the steps in the process of estate planning.
Sure.
How long does it take to establish a trust? Why do you need a trust? Why do you need a will?
Sure.
And then, from someone who is relatively new, they've got a family, they need, someone to, I guess, guide them in a way of protecting their young ones, all the way to someone who's got, like oodles and oodles of money. I guess tell us about the process, how it works.
Yeah. So essentially we'll start with an introduction. So a professional like you or another client will make the introduction by email or phone call or however that happens. We'll set up an initial conversation, which now is happening via telephone or Zoom, which is great. It saves on commuting, and clients are really liking not having to drive into the office to meet with us on the initial conversation. That conversation will last up to about an hour. Some are much shorter, some are longer. But an hour conversation, we can uncover what their goals are and really get a sense of what they're trying to do for their family. And then after that, we give them some documentation. They fill it out. It's, the who, what, where of their lives, the people that are important to them, all the personal information that we need in order to draft our plan. And once we get that information back from them, which I can't give you an average time of what it takes them to get it back to us, because it ranges from the next day to longer than that. But after that, we're about 2 weeks from drafting, reviewing, and buttoning up all of the documents and getting them ready for notarization. And then we'll have them come into the office, or we'll meet them outside of the office, depending on what the circumstances are, and notarize them. We'll keep the documents after we sign them. We'll scan them in. We put a nice package together and send it off to them, so that the clients have the original documents within about 3 weeks of of having completed all of their homework for us to do our work. And sometimes it's shorter, but right now I would say it's 2 to 3 weeks. Sometimes it's not as long, but right now we're busy with year-end planning.
Right.
And so the basic estate plan really is going to consist of about 5 major documents. The first by volume, a number of pages, and the largest one is going to be the trust. How I like to explain what that is for clients is you can think of it as a big basket where all of your assets are going to go into it. Whatever's in the basket gets transferred to your beneficiaries outside of the probate court. And that's really one of the main reasons that people are going to put a trust together and have their assets in there, is to avoid probate, which is expensive, it's public, and it's a long process. Our courts have been impacted ever since the Great Recession of 2008, and things just take a long time. But if everything's in the trust, your successor trustee can basically wrap up your affairs within a few months, even shorter, or depending on the assets and the makeup of what's going on, within 6 months is the typical time. The next one is a will. So the wills, if you have children that are under 18, it's going to serve 2 purposes. One, it's going to nominate permanent guardians for the kids in case something happens. And then it's going to act as a safety net for any asset that's outside of the trust when you pass. So 10 or 20 years from now, after you've put your plan together, you go to the bank and you're not thinking, you didn't call us to chat about opening the account, and you open the account in the name of yourself as an individual. Well, that isn't going to avoid probate under those terms. So somebody will, after your death, somebody will go to the bank and then with some documentation and get that asset. It'll be written in the proceeds will be written into the name of the trust, and then your successor trustee, personal representative, can deposit that in the trust account. And then you got your advanced healthcare directive. So essentially, if you can't ever communicate with the doctors, but you're still alive, your agent can come in and direct your minor medical care. And then you're going to also put down your end of life decisions, whether you want to be kept on life support, any religious or spiritual directions that you have for maybe restrictions on medical care. Those will be in that document as well. And whether you want your organs and tissues donated for whatever purposes. And then along with that, in order for your medical professionals to have a conversation with your agents, you need a HIPAA release. So we take care of that. And then you have your durable power of attorney for financial matters. And so anything that's outside of the trust, which is properly outside of the trust, like a retirement account, your agent for financial matters under your power of attorney would be able to act in your place. They're also going to cover bills and stuff like that. So they'll be on the phone with your cell phone provider to coordinate anything like that. And those are the 5 major. There's about a dozen other documents, but they just basically support the trust and the rest of the estate plan. So we don't typically get into those unless clients are particularly interested and want to know all the documents.
Which is actually really crazy too, because I think from a financial planning standpoint, I mean, those 5 major documents can be designed similarly, not similarly, but the core of it is the objectives are the same essentially, for whether someone has a couple $1,000 to people who have hundreds of millions of dollars, right? It's just figuring things out ahead of time so that you don't have to worry about it later. You don't have to have your heirs worry about it, your beneficiaries worry about it. because I mean, there's been instances for me, like in situations where, people haven't had those documents in place, and it can be really problematic if things aren't situated and set up, ahead of time. So
I couldn't agree more with you understanding that our work is important.
oh man, it's a major component of financial planning. It's like, you know, there's all these different steps, and part of it is making sure that, things are taken care of for your family. That's it.
And I talk to people, and they always want to say, or some of them do, I don't have any estate. I don't have an estate. I don't have any money. And I will tell them, look, if you don't have any money, it's more important that you provide permission ahead of time, uh, that you grant this permission to somebody ahead of time before something happens. Because if you don't, then the court's going to have to get involved, and attorneys are going to have to get paid. And if you think that an estate plan is expensive, wait till you pay an attorney by the hour to go represent you in court. It's really unfortunate that the mindset is what it is, where, oh, I don't have anything, so I don't think I need to do that. Well, if you don't have anything, you actually need to do it more.
Yeah, for sure. Man, there's just been so many instances for me where I've heard, those sorts of things where it's like, I don't think I need it, or it's not super, important or whatever. And at the end of the day, like it really is. And it's not just about the money, like you said, it's about making sure that everything else is in place.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. So I guess from that perspective, like my next question was basically like, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you've seen as an estate planning attorney?
We've seen improper funding. So somebody gets an estate plan, they get the trust, they get the will, they do all this stuff, but then the client doesn't do anything after that. They think, okay, I have this trust and all my stuff is in there. Well, no, you have to fund the trust. So what we do is all the assets that a client shares with us, some clients don't share all their assets sometimes, but either they have too many or they don't trust us yet. It happens it happens all the time. They don't want to tell us about their gold that they have under the basement. Yeah. Like we're gonna go get it.
Like a big gold brick, and don't touch it.
Yeah, I mean, there's stories out there. I haven't read into that part, but so if you have all these assets, let's say you have a couple LLCs, you have you have a commercial building, or you have a rental property that you used to live in, and then you upgrade it to your personal residence. Well, if you don't have that deed in your trust, it's not in your trust. And so that's one of the big things that we see is just people saying, hey, here's my trust. Can you take a look at it? And then we'll look at it and then we'll say, okay, well, what are the assets that are supposed to be in there? And they'll give us the list. We'll pull the deeds, and the deeds are still in their name as spouses' community property. And when we bring that up to them, they tend to be shocked because the attorney that they worked with in the first place didn't tell them, or they don't remember that they told them. I'd like to say that it wasn't the attorney, but it could have been, but that's a mistake. About every 6 months, we follow up with our clients and say, hey, where are you on your homework? It's the teacher in us, I gotta say.
Yeah.
And so let's start checking off the boxes. And that's probably the biggest mistake. I don't see many. So it's an interesting question, actually.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good. I mean, I think for me, the biggest mistake is not already having something in place. If you have kids or, that kind of thing. Because it's so important. So,
yeah, it can never be too early to put an estate plan together. But it can be too late. That's the thing. And when is it too late? It's too late when you can't sign the documents for yourself. And when is that going to happen? Nobody knows.
Right.
You just don't know.
Yeah. Well, going into the next question is actually, you kind of have something in the background there that little basketball action going on. I was going to say, who are your heroes? And obviously Kobe Bryant's probably one of them, but who else?
Yeah, I never really followed Kobe's career or basketball in general, but
same.
It's funny because I was asked that like first day of law school. We were doing like pre-classes, and they said, okay, well, like, who's your hero? And one of my big heroes, that's not family, obviously my grandpa is like my biggest hero. And taking 4 grandkids in and helping raise them with my grandma was amazing. And he's definitely a hero of mine. But outside of that, Roberto Clemente is somebody that has always been a hero of mine. Like, as soon as I heard about what he did and like how it happened, like his whole life growing up and becoming one of the best baseball players in the world, but then always knowing where he came from and trying to help those people, and then just meeting a tragic end, doing really good work. He's a hero.
Yes, man. I can feel that on this side. I can feel how deep he's touched you.
Yeah.
It's good stuff, man. It's good stuff. Well, man, honestly, Kris, that was amazing. So valuable, so much information. I think that the people who are watching and listening are going to be able to walk away with a lot. And thanks so much for your time, buddy. Oh. Any last words?
No, just plan early, plan often.
Yeah, I like it. Where can people find you other than the golf course?
Well, we do a lot of networking on the golf course. We do. I spend a lot of time in the office though as well, so it's not all fun and games. But it's like one of the only safe things that we can do while networking right now, right. As we have this Zoom call where we can't be together. Right. But they can find us at www.socalclg.com. That's SOCALCLG.com. So it's SoCal, like Southern California, and CLG for Chhokar Law Group.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. And have an awesome rest of the day. And happy Aloha Friday tomorrow.
Yes, it was good to be with you. Thank you for the invitation.
All right, man.
All right.